a thought that creates anger is going to change the physical chemistry of your body immediately. And then all those little ways that we influence our health and our hormonal function in real time due to our thoughts. In particular, as detailed in my show with Dr. Ron Sinha, the act of rumination can actually be categorized as a physical disease state. This is from Dr. Sinha's work with real patients and referencing research that when you engage in rumination about the past or about the future, you can cause harm immediately to your physical health. And the constant act or the continued act of rumination will show up in blood work as a stressed, anxious, depressed person. Time for a breather show on the topic of reprogramming your subconscious. I urge you to listen to my epic interview with Dr. Bruce Lipton, author of the wonderful book, The Biology of Belief, that can truly be life-changing when you absorb this message that our thoughts influence our cellular function at all times. I think the easiest quick example is once you get angry, you spike the stress hormones in your bloodstream, you suppress your immune function, all those things that happen when you're under stress. So, of course, a thought that creates anger is going to change the physical chemistry of your body immediately. And then all those little ways that we influence our health and our hormonal function in real time due to our thoughts. In particular, as detailed in my show with Dr. Ron Sinha, the act of rumination can actually be categorized as a physical disease state. This is from Dr. Sinha's work with real patients and referencing research that when you engage in rumination about the past or about the future, you can cause harm immediately to your physical health. And the constant act or the continued act of rumination will show up in blood work as a stressed, anxious, depressed person. And so the importance of maintaining present focus and understanding, especially through the work of Dr. Lipton, how we generally operate out of flawed subconscious programming 95 to 98% of the time. We're walking around as what Dr. Lipton calls zombies. And he draws the analogy to understand it's sort of how an experienced driver of a car is operating the vehicle. We're not really thinking about every little thing that we're doing, putting our hand on the turn signal and hitting it and looking over our shoulder. Everything happens from subconscious programming because we're so good at driving, to the extent that we can listen to a podcast, have a conversation, sing along to music, let our mind wander and think about whatever we want. And then pretty soon we're 30 miles down the road, closer to our destination. So that's the example of operating from flawed subconscious programming in general life. And so what's happening is we are engaging in a sequence of triggered pattern behavior based on this programming that we take around that was largely completed between the ages of 0 to 7, when our minds and our entire awareness, we were like sponges. We took in the world around us, and then we formed these fixed and rigid beliefs, behavior patterns, thoughts, ways that we act, think, and operate, all dating back to childhood. And of course, it was never perfect. So the first time someone told us to stop crying when we were a little kid, we learned to suppress our true feelings and what have you. And of course, some of these things are necessary, but the point is to kind of recognize how we are operating frequently from flawed subconscious programming, and the stuff that we don't like, for example, the triggered outbursts and what have you, reactionary behavior, we can make an attempt to change it by bringing these behavior patterns, thoughts, and beliefs into our awareness and then doing something about it. And Dr. Lipton talks about two primary ways to reprogram our subconscious. One of them is called habituation, and that would be the repetition of desired behaviors until they become habit. So this can be doing a morning exercise routine day after day after day, committing to it, And it can also entail habituation, changing your thoughts. So when you start to engage in self-criticism, you can catch yourself, you can realize that you're operating from flawed subconscious programming and do something about it. I'm going to describe what Jack Canfield recommends in this particular example of negative self-talk, self-belief. The other primary way to reprogram the subconscious is through hypnosis. So this is when you can access that sponge mindset that you had as a child with working with a trained professional. So let's focus on the habituation strategy. And hey, maybe hypnosis is something to consider if you're trying to break through a flawed subconscious pattern. So habituation would entail integrating the desired behaviors into habit. And in order to succeed here, the desired behaviors that you want to integrate into habit must be easy, doable, sustainable, and rewarding. So consider the #1 best-selling book in the world right now, Atomic Habits by James Clear, where he makes many of these similar points, especially the idea that these desired habits must be easy. They must feel easy, within your reach, enjoyable, sustainable, rewarding immediately. And that's why we want to have set that really low bar. So when I talk about starting out with a morning exercise routine, I talk about my awesome routine that I do every single day and how long it takes. But the best way to start to integrate a morning exercise routine into habit would be to start very conservatively, as I did 6 years ago, with a very simple and non-strenuous 12-minute exercise routine. Was what I did every day for months and months. And then I started adding to it because it had been integrated into habit in an easy and effortless manner. It wasn't a big struggle to devote 12 minutes of my morning. Now, today, my routine takes 40 minutes. It's pretty strenuous. There's some pretty hard stuff at the end. Sometimes it feels like a chore or inconvenient because that's a big chunk of time to devote every single morning without fail. However, the further down the road I get, the more habitual it is. And now I feel out of sorts if I don't complete my morning exercise routine. So I flip-flopped from having something be daunting and challenging to something that is so inherent that I need to do it. I don't even think about it or whether I'm motivated or feel like it or don't feel like it on a certain day. So habituation, integrating desired behaviors into habit, must seem easy, doable, sustainable, and rewarding. Pick something. Let's talk about the morning exercise routine for a moment. Can you devote 5 minutes every single morning to a routine of physical movement, ideally outdoors, so that direct light is hitting your eyeballs and setting your hormones, your serotonin, your cortisol, suppressing melatonin, giving you that alertness and energy that comes from being in alignment with your circadian rhythm? It does not have to be strenuous. If it starts out with you making a commitment to leashing up the dog and walking the dog around the block, that's a wonderful morning movement routine. And then perhaps as time goes on, you can throw in arriving back home and setting down for a set of 20 squats up and down off the bench and some sun salute exercises or whatever it is that you're going to integrate. You're going to build off that easy starting point and integrate something into habit. And by doing so, creating that habituation to get away from the flawed subconscious programming that perhaps has made you feel like you're a lazy person in the morning. You're, quote, not a morning person. And you keep verbalizing this and programming that into your subconscious so that you're not an active, energetic morning person. This is the way to turn it around, to integrate behaviors into habit. And I'll do a whole second breather show talking further about overcoming flawed childhood programming and turning the corner and using some strategies.